Ready?
5:30, I'd like to call the Utilities Committee for May 7th to order. Jess, may I have a roll, please?
Picken,
Here.
Barstow,
Here.
Howell.
Here.
Nathan, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cooley, would you do the introduction since we have somebody from staff that usually has not been here in the
I
past?
sure will. I have with me tonight Chris Sherrock. He is our utility field superintendent. Chris has been with us for several years. 14, and he was a part of our staffing change this year, part of the 2018 budget. Chris was promoted to supervisor and has been filling that role wonderfully. So he's here tonight just to get some FaceTime with you guys and maybe talk a little bit about some of our goings-ons a little bit.
Welcome, Mr. Schrock.
Thank you.
With that said, why don't we dive right in to the Creek Road Water Main Project update?
If you won't mind, Tim, can I flip-flop a little bit?
Yeah, we can do, you
Can
can
I
take
start
anyone
with
first that you want.
item 6 in lieu of 4 right now?
Yes,
Is that all right?
yeah.
All right, so just to give you a little update on our 2018 kind of plans and initiatives and let you know where we're at with some of the things that we set out to do. Just wanted to give you a brief on those. Right off the bat, the staff restructure plan, that was one of our main initiatives, at least from staff level in the department to address, and that's why we've got Chris here with us. Chris was forwarded this opportunity for several reasons. His drive, his attitude, and his knowledge in the field. He continues to grow and has just kind of been a shooting star for us. So I at least wanted to use the time to, again, introduce him and just let him share a couple things that he's got on his mind, if you don't mind, at least with the position.
Slide the microphone over towards you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Well, thanks for having me here. The biggest thing we're doing right now is it's a small team. There's just 2 guys that are under me for the field tech positions. So we're doing a lot of cross training between the 2 of them so that we can cover each one taking a vacation or sick day or whatever. So there's Tony is a service guy and Mitch has historically been out in the field guy. And so we're doing a lot of work together with the 2 of them learning. Mitch is learning service and Tony's learning the pumps and the system itself. So that's been going pretty well. It's a new thing for all of them, but I think it's working out good for us in the long run. So that's the biggest thing we're working on now.
Excellent.
Today, the guys, since they're kind of on the same team, if you will, they're working together as we speak.
Yep.
Up on the field, applying product and spreading our product on our fields. Mitch is the tractor man and Tony's up there, the load man. So we got them kind of working together and getting dirty together in so few words. So
Which field are you using?
off of Ressner Road.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been great. Chris has been doing a great job kind of corralling them in, and he's been great at least getting together with them and kind of projecting a vision on where we want to go, where he wants to see some of their responsibilities fall, rightfully so, and just a nice accountability process. So giving Chris a little FaceTime in case I'm on vacation, I might send him in for me if council meeting lines up. Right.
Fair enough.
Very nice. Very nice.
Suit and tie, by the
I'll
way.
have to work.
Suit and
I'll have to
tie.
work on this.
He's got the face. That's all that matters, right? That's the money maker. Anyhow, so I appreciate your support on that. It was, it's been a great move, and you see the positive ripple effects through the department, and even with Ryan in the past, he was our single superintendent. Well, now he's in charge of all the treatment plants, and he can focus on that. He's more in his element there in a great way. So that's that. Wastewater phosphorus project. Want to give you an update on that. We are knee deep in the design portion of that project as we speak. In fact, Job's requested a copy of our most recent biosolid storage facility to kind of lump into some of the things that we're looking at to get a good overall site plan for them. The focus of the project, of course, is reducing our effluent phosphorus discharge to the creek. It started out as this may happen. The EPA may place this limit. It is now since passed that the limit is going to get passed on all dischargers designed for 1 million gallons or more. So we're working on that. We're very confident that based on what we're seeing now, at least 80% of the phosphorus we need to remove will be conducted through a new sludge thickening unit, a new press. We're very, well, our results that we're seeing so far with some of our tests, we're going to get there. Part of that is we also need to do a little bit of reconfiguration of our biological reactor to kind of encourage some more of the magic to happen where it should. So we're looking at some aeration improvements. I think I shared in the past, even last summer, we had a rotor drive go down and it just kind of wreaked havoc on our process. We maintained our permit, but if we had a phosphorus permit, we wouldn't have met it. We're in the same boat again. Over the weekend, we had a drive go down and we're back to where we were, trying to scramble to get enough air into the system. So part of this project is to address that, to make sure we got enough redundancy to where if we have to take something off a line or something decides to go offline, we've got enough equipment in the process to maintain our limits. And some building work, whether we're looking, the press that we're looking at, it's going to be tight. It may fit in one of our current buildings, but there may be a need to extend a current building just to kind of fit it to make sure we meet all codes with clearance and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're going with that. I anticipate designs being done here probably fourth quarter, that would be my guess, late third, early fourth, to give us a direction on what we would construct going into 19 and kind of work on our plan with that.
And as I recall, to install the bigger press, you need a bigger building, and
That's
building
correct.
modifications. So that would be 2019.
Yeah, that's the plan, and whatever we don't spend this year. Now, there's also the idea too, with the funds that we've set aside, if it makes sense to, we've identified the press and it will fit or won't fit. If we decide to go with this particular press, it's a 6 to 7 month lead time if we place the order. So it may be something we might look at purchasing the unit this year in anticipation of going into 19, the building's ready to go and we can just drop
And
it
it
in.
shows up, okay.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Well cleaning project, the bids were opened last Thursday. We received 4 bids. The highest was $112,000, the lowest was $52,520. The other two were very close, $60,000, $66,000 and $64,000. The low bid was Jameson, well, they're out of Mansfield at the $52,000 mark. If you recall, my budget amount for that was $50,000. So now what I'm gonna have to do is, once Jamie gets back in preparation for the next meeting, to move some money around, to adjust that mark so we can pay for the project. I will tell you, I am shocked at the numbers that we received. I don't know how to explain it other than, well, I'll tell you this, I had a budgetary quote from one of these vendors dated January 5th, 2018 at a price of $11,800 per well, got us into the 46,000 mark.
Yeah.
So I thought we would get better numbers. We didn't. I can't explain why, or it's the bids that we got, and that's what I have to report.
And you anticipate going with Jameson?
Yes. Yeah. They got a good track record. They're out of Mansfield. It would be our first time working with them, but the folks that we used to work with in the past did not put in a bid, so well, we're in the market for another provider. So, and part of that is, this is, and to let you know, this is, there's no, this is a preventative maintenance item. You know, something underground like that, it's not like we can always peer in it and make sure the screen's good. This is something that we like to do every 4 years on a rotating schedule between water plant 1 and water plant 2, just to give it a good clean, we'll pull everything out, inspect the pump and motor. We'll run a TV camera down the well, make sure that the integrity of the actual well is good, the packing's good, things like that. And through this process, we'll be able to determine if there's any wear signs on a pump or motor that we might not see on daily operation. Maybe something that we could plan for, like, hey, this motor, let's plan for next year. That's the hope, to where if we do need to replace something, we can plan for next year. If not, we find something crazy, which I don't expect, we'll address accordingly. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes.
Mill Street.
Next item, Mill Street service line and cap work. I'm gonna have Chris talk a little bit about this, but I'm just gonna kind of throw it out. This is not something that we called out in the budget for 2018 because we anticipated doing most of this work in-house and working with Ventura. The idea is Alan's gonna have Mill Street paved, and we've got some water line things that we need to address between Main and Township. So again, just like Main Street, I would hate for them to have it done and then we show up like the wrecking crew and tear up that nice road. So our goal is to work with Alan. As soon as we have an idea when they might do that, we're gonna kind of start on our work as close to their schedule as we can. Would you like to share anything on that?
So what we've got on Mill Street is an old 6-inch cast line that goes from Main Street down to Jefferson and then turns north of Jefferson. There's even I think it's an inch and a half feeder that runs from that bend on Jefferson down to Township and feeds 4 houses off of it. So there's about 10 or 15 houses that are on this line, and it's broken several times on us. We get a lot of circular cracks on it. There are newer mains that will run alongside of it. There's a 10-inch main that runs all the way down Mill, and there's an 8-inch that runs half the way down. But when those were put in, they never connected the customers onto the new lines. So that's basically what we'd like to do, is put them onto the newer mains, get rid of the section of the old 6-inch main that has given us so many problems, and reroute the water back around onto the newer mains that are in the area.
Will you abandon that in place, or since you got the hole open to make the connections, will you pull it out?
So to make the connections, we probably wouldn't have to tear up the whole area. It would be specific holes dug up for each connection, so we probably would abandon it in place, cut and cap each end and leave it there.
How about downtime on the road? What's the time frame for the project?
Well, if you don't
No, go ahead.
the idea is to break it up into 2 phases in in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong. Phase 1 would be working between Jefferson and Township to connect those customers onto the nicer new line that's there,
Right.
and just have that section closed down. I anticipate a week. That's in my mind of us digging up, doing all the work. And then once that's done, kind of fill it with stone, go to the next one and do that other section and take a week, planning for a week to do it.
Will the road be impassable when you do that?
Pretty likely.
And that's why I think we gotta break it up so we don't completely close off the whole part of Mill Street there, so that way they could either detour up around Jefferson, instead of closing the whole thing off for Main or Township.
Okay.
So, and what year did they run that line? Would that have been 2099?
For the 10-inch, yeah, it would have been 99, and the 8-inch would have been late 80s that went by. And both times they just ran right by all the connections and kept going, so.
So we're trying to eliminate a headache. If you remember, I always call it the Texas-sized hole that we
Yes.
had. It was in the wintertime,
Mhm.
where the hole just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Washed it all out.
Yeah. So we want to avoid that, especially if he's going to put a nice new surface there. So Alan and I had talked earlier. I think he was shooting towards October. So our plan would be to have this done, well, ahead of him without.
Right, summertime?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got our parts list together. We'll buy the parts, and then we're gonna work with Venture to get a decent quote to kind of work on this in-house somewhat.
So I'm sure with Alan paving it, there'll be notifications to the community and the schools, just to let them know.
There will be, and we also talked about avoiding the street fair, naturally.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Okay.
And trying to think, selfishly, when we tear this up, we're not gonna put the asphalt back down, so we wanna time it up to where they're coming through and doing their
Sure.
work. So we don't get too many complaints about the stone or the dust or things like that, so it's gonna be, we're gonna keep working on that and try and pace it with them as best we can with minimal issues.
Good.
Thank you, Chris.
Where you wanna go now?
So that wraps up that. So let's hit on Creek Road then. Now that I've made the introduction to Chris and he's gotten warmed up a little bit. Creek Road, as you know, it was, well, it was a bottleneck that we knew about and was further confirmed in our study with Strand. It's kind of twofold: to eliminate a current 6-inch pipe that is, well, I'll leave it at that. The idea is to fix this bottleneck to improve our system efficiencies with some benefits to some of our folks that have had some concerns for water pressure. Since it was an unfunded, we didn't have the money to do the job, we're working with a developer at the Hazelton Cross, what is that called again, Hazelton Cross?
Hazelton Town Center?
Hazelton Town Center. Basically, in lieu of tap fees, they're doing this project for us, which I'm excited. We did the design, and we're very close to getting some dirt moving. We've done our part to at least get the notice out to the customers. They're all aware. We've had some phone calls. I will tell you, we did have to remove one tree, but it was a dead tree, and the customer at that house was more than happy.
All right.
So that's a striking for success. With the weather, the contractor that's doing this, of course, he was behind with the weather, but we expect them any moment. What do you
The
think?
plan is this week for them to start staging equipment and get things going, so that's the plan.
Chris, in my absence on the 40th, I was in a different meeting. He did the walkthrough with the contractor and the developer. I think we got a really good game plan on getting this thing taken care of. Is there anything?
We came up with a pretty good plan to keep the, as the project's going, we're gonna keep the old line fed from one direction and capped off, then feed the new line from another direction. There'll be minimal disruption to any of the customers, basically just long enough to, when everything's chlorinated and passed, just long enough to disconnect from the main that we're abandoning, hook them onto the new main, and then they'll be back in business again, so. On paper, at least, everything should be going pretty smooth out there.
Great. That's kind of an innovative way. That's the first time we've
Yeah.
done that, right?
Yeah, it's a first, yeah.
Be interested to see if we can do it in other places or if it's advantageous.
Yeah, yeah. It's presented itself in a nice opportunity for us, and I'm excited about the idea. And once we get this pipeline in place, some additional testing that we want to conduct to see if we can't help some pressure in the area a little bit.
Sure.
We can't test it until this line's done, so I'm hopeful.
And that line takes a bend and goes back through the farm fields to Sugar Mill, right? Feed Sugar Mill?
No, this will go straight up Creek Road and it'll tee into Township Road.
It connects to River Forest,
Oh,
which
yeah.
eventually does go back to the.
That's
River-
what I
get
meant,
to Sugar
River
Mill. Yeah,
Forest.
yeah. So this is the main feeder to that line, so hopefully the increase in size will give us benefit at Sugar Mill, is the hope.
See, that's why he's here. See? Huh? He's on it.
You're hired.
I like it.
So yeah, and we did have one of the folks at the Homeowners Association at Sugar Mill check in just a mere few weeks ago, just asking for an update, you know, based on some of our past conversations and visits to them, and I was happy to inform them of what we're doing and things are going as we, well, we shared that we wanted to find a way to fix this, and we found a way, and let's see
What it does.
what kind of relief it provides. So I think they were at least satisfied that we've maintained our commitments. So I'm happy about that. I'll also be happy if we can come out and say it's a 10 PSI increase. I'm not gonna say it yet, but I'm hopeful.
Well, yeah, my observation of the Sugar Mill folks is that they're pretty reasonable. And that was, you know, they had the zoning issue, it's completely unrelated
Yeah.
to this, but it seems as though they're very active and, that's a nice area and, so, yeah, we try to do what we can to help them out. And this sounds like it'll
Yeah.
help somewhat.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's Creek Road, yeah? Good?
Good.
All right, let's go with item B. I gave you a little flyer here. This is, to give you something to digest and chew on. We need to have another utility committee meeting in June to discuss some more of this. So this is my first initial attempt to bring this before you, and I'll tell you why I'm bringing it before you, if you don't mind. A little bit of background information. The city, the financial accounting system for the city, how we issue POs and maintain our budget and payments and things like that. It's a program called SSI VIP. SSI is Software Solutions Incorporated. VIP, we're very important people. I'm leaning towards that. So that's the program that the finance department uses now for all our reconciliation, for lack of better term. The utility department, your enterprise fund, we have our own separate government solutions, accounting, billing system for sending out our bills, collecting payments, getting the batch payments, so on and so forth. So what we have at the city, let's call it virtual, what's the word I'm thinking of?
Virtualization?
Virtualization, okay, so it's great, wonderful technology. Our system is similar to what you might think of a DOS system. It's good, it works, but we're getting to the point to where some of the updates for this system is getting harder and harder for maintenance. So what we do now is we kind of merge the two together manually. You know, we do manual inputs into the financial system. Fine, it works. One of the goals that we're going to have for 2019 will be a budget initiative with us and the finance department, is to migrate our utility billing software program to SSI VIP, because that's a service that they provide. So we're all on the same system, all same network, and we're all kind of feeding information on the same platform. I'm in favor of that. I think it's good for us to start moving that way. It also gets us off of a hardware-driven system to something that's virtual, in the cloud, on the server type of thing. It's good for business. Part of that is when we make this change, Software Solutions has a third-party payment provider option that goes with. So every system like this has their own third party. What we're doing now, since our system is a little more dated, we have several options for people to use, whether it's something like official payments, ACH, automatic withdrawal, and anybody can do like their online banking, pay by check, pay by card. That's all there. So right now what Stephanie does, she'll get different batches every day. It'll either be check stubs, cash, credit card payment, official payments, bank payments, you get all these. Once we move to this system, it's a little more automated, less hands touching it and kind of feeding in type of thing. The change that we're looking at doing is migrating over to their third-party payment processing system ahead of going totally on the VIP, SSI VIP system. It was recommended from these folks that we do this to kind of work through the process, work out the bugs and everything else. I'm here to tell you that there has been a vision to roll this out in August of this year. I don't know that we're there yet, because one of the things that we have to consider by going to this third-party provider is a convenience fee that's going to get passed on to our customers. And part of this, one of the examples that we'll see, if you come in and pay at our window today, there's no service fee. To go to this, there would be a $3.50 service fee if you want to pay by card at the window. It's something that we don't do now. It is something that if we do have charges like this, we eat it. Just normal credit card payment. There's always an amount, a percentage that we owe every month. So we don't pass that on to the customer. Even if it's something with e-billing that we do now, if there's a 10 cents charge, we eat that because, hey, we're not sending out a postage stamp, so we're eating that type of thing. So I'm here letting you know that this is something that we're considering. From my standpoint, we have to step in toe with you guys and the public to make it, an education process on why, what's the benefits, and to help everybody understand these fees. That in my understanding at this point, some of these fees from the credit card companies are something that we should be doing, but we're not. Regardless, I want to get out in front of it so nobody's surprised, and so Mrs. Johnson doesn't come in and say, my water bill went up $3.50. That's going to be viewed as an increase, even though it's a convenience fee.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you go to McDonald's or Best Buy or anywhere and use your MasterCard to pay, McDonald's or Best Buy or whatever eats the fee that MasterCard charges. It's only the government that insists that the taxpayer pay it. So we have this in Franklin County. All fees are now electronically collected by the clerk of court when you file something. And there's a convenience fee, and it's based on the amount of court costs that are charged up front. So the client ends up paying that. So I'm not in favor of that. No, McDonald's doesn't. When I go to Staples and use my MasterCard to buy office supplies, Staples doesn't tack on the fee that they pay to MasterCard to me, and I don't think we should do it either.
You and I should share the same feelings. My plan for a June meeting is to have these folks here with us to have a discussion, along with the finance director, just to make sure we're on the same page. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Sometimes my job is to be a jack of all trades, a master of none. These are one of the categories I am not a master. So I'm still learning, so I can communicate to you guys what the benefits are and why we should do this. But I'll also tell you, in my conversations last week with this provider, we had a lengthy phone conversation stemming on this to say, hey, if we want to eat the cost, how do we work that out? Well, that goes down a different path. There is that option, but I also said, hey, if we're going to your software in the future, $3.50 is the best we can do. I did get a verbal quote of $2.25 on that spot to give you an idea, but I
understand. Look, they're a company that provides a service. It's not the software developer that's
Right.
providing the service.
Right.
They have to farm that out because
Right.
that's not what they do, and I get it. But again, if that's one of the reasons I don't take credit cards because I have to pay, and with the credit card, it's not a flat fee. It depends on what you do. It can be a flat fee. It can be based on how much is charged. And I have to. I mean, so I just don't. I don't think we should. Nobody else passes. Again, if you go to Lowe's, spend $300 on whatever, Lowe's doesn't surcharge you the fee that they have to pay to MasterCard or Visa or whatever.
My feeling is similar to Mr. Barstow's, although much like he stated, my business does eat the cost. We allow the credit card for convenience. It seems, and I thank you for bringing this here. In fact, we talked about this, and I wanted this committee to hear this discussion because it is common. And if you looked, I think Mr. Nicholson also talked about it a little bit in his report to let council know about it. It'll be an interesting discussion. It seems to be, I don't know if the companies that have been cited, the Staples and the Lowe's, if they bake that into the cake of their prices. They may not. McDonald's may or may not. It may not, they may add some price to a Big Mac. And so, in the end, they capture it if somebody pays with a credit card. It seems to me to be much more prevalent in the electronic startup world, or the way you no longer go to Best Buy to buy specific software, you just do it online. And as the company, or as the country has moved that way, that convenience fee seems to almost now be, well, that's what you pay. And knowing our customer base like we all do, I think it's a very valid point that somebody is gonna say, why is it $3.25? And I think it's a discussion we need to have.
Especially if the customer, and I think rightly so, says, well, this is making it more convenient for you, the utility department. You don't have to have some lady with her green visor going through checks and going over to the bank and deposit. It makes it easier, which is the same argument I had with the bar had with the clerk of court saying, well, you don't have to handle our checks anymore. You don't have to have it's fewer people who come to your counter to transact business. You don't have to print a receipt anymore. It's the third-party vendor sends me the receipt. So,
By the same token, I'd also like to look into how important or how soon our software that we currently use is not going to be supported.
Yeah,
And if the answer is, look, sorry, this was written in DOS in 1988, and you're getting updates, but that company that created it has now been purchased by, Magnetron, and they're not gonna give updates anymore. That happens all the time.
right.
And do we have another software option? And that'll be the next question, I think, in June. I'd also like to talk a little bit and say, why is this the software option we're looking at? And hopefully we can have that discussion. But I would agree that, at least for me, August isn't soon enough to prepare our own customer base if something else happened that foisted it on us. So, I don't know, Mike, do you have
So would this convenience fee be charged to everyone regardless of how they choose to pay?
This, to my understanding, the convenience fee will be charged only to people that pay by credit card at the window, pay by text, pay by phone, and ACH.
automatic credit card withdrawal?
Yes.
ACH is automated clearinghouse.
Well, that's what they have. It says ACH transactions.
ACH transactions are transactions that come out of a checking or savings.
Comes directly out of,
Direct
if you
check
look at
yours.
all of our paychecks, anytime we
Right.
pay vendors, it's ACH, and there is really no reason to charge for those things. If I can just say a couple things real quick.
Sure.
Just real quick, I think Tim hit it on the head when we said, is this the only software that can do this? Is this so proprietary that this is the only one that can do it, and is that the cost to do this? What can other people do it for? There certainly is a convenience to be sitting at your house at night and pay your bill. And something I think we need to consider when we look at the Lowe's and the Staples and everything, those are private businesses. I don't know how that plays into using taxpayer money to cover, or not in this case, taxpayer money, but user fee money to cover that for folks. So, August is not gonna happen. I see this being as a 2019 initiative, one way or another, whether it's this company or another. But there's no way we're gonna be ready to do this in 19 to get it done.
In 19?
Or in 18 to get it done. This will be a 19 initiative.
But it's taxpayer money whether
Yeah.
the person is writing a check or whether it's taxpayer money. I guess that's
Okay.
how I
Yeah.
view taxpayer money. It's still taxpayer money when it arrives in the city. So it's a philosophical difference, but yeah, I think this needs a lot. I'm not saying Nate is bad. This is great information. I agree with BJ and Tim and Mike that we need. This is a lot. This is a big old. This has a lot of the potential for all kinds of twists and turns.
And if I can just real quick, and the best way to say Nate's on that same page.
Okay.
And so we've had discussions about this. So my management style is to send the folks that would be dealing with this. And so from that standpoint, I had to hit the brakes when I heard the $3.50. That's where I've kind of said, well, yeah, just because of how it's gonna get. I'll use this as an example, and I don't know who was here when we raised the water CIP by $1.50. That was passed in August 8th, I believe, of 2016
Yes.
or 2015.
2015.
2015.
We used the rest of that year to send out notices, information, with the anticipation that the folks wouldn't see it until their March due bill anyhow. So in my mind, anytime, even if it's something like this, based on experience, I need 6 months to get the word out to our public to, and not that we want to avoid phone calls, but we want to avoid phone calls like, what the heck is this about? So to have ample opportunity to get it out, and if this is the only way, then we gotta have a way to communicate to everybody so everybody's on the same page. Now, my default right now, so you know, is to not make any changes. Be fully aware that that is my go-to at this moment. If you sit on my chest and say, I want an answer, my default is to say, don't touch it. That's just me being me.
Real quick, and I know the answer to this, but I'll throw it out there. How urgent is it to make this change?
If I take into consideration the opinion of my staff, there is no,
Urgency?
yes, no urgency at this time.
There's no arterial bleeding at this point.
Correct.
Okay.
And from when I listen to the folks that report to me, this service here, not to say that it's bad, we're doing the same thing, but not passing fees on to customers. And for example, I wish Stephanie was here. We use, one of the payment options that people can use through our system, maybe it's official payments.
It is. Official payments
There's-
online?
Yeah, we've got 400 plus customers that use that free of charge. Nobody, there's no dinging back and forth. That would be the 450 people that would probably have to go a route that they gotta do the $3.50 charge per transaction. So even though it's 450 people, it still would be a vocal amount. And I'll tell you too, just for a reference point, so you know, majority of our customers, the highest amount people pay is by check. We still, if we get 3,000.
Traditional, from the checkbook,
Yep.
check?
If we get
Paper.
send out 3,000 bills a month, 1,800 of them are check and stub. So from our standpoint too, if we go to something like that, we gotta figure out how this works with the system we use there, with the check stub scanning system. So, well, and this has some nice things, like people could log on and view their bill at any time, and all sorts of nice virtual user options. Wonderful. I think we also have to look at our demographic and say if people are still using checks, that's something to
Right.
consider.
If we have, that's what, 60%?
Yeah.
If we have 60% of the people who are still using traditional little paper envelope, maybe drop off or mail in, I'm not sure that this is
Well, and what I'll do for the next meeting,
interesting, I'm not
is-
sure, yeah, okay.
I will, go ahead.
Even more interesting to me is, those aren't the people that'll ever pay the fee,
Right. Well, that's true.
right? Because if you're walking up and writing a check or paying with cash, you're not gonna be subject to this.
That's correct.
So it's an interesting, like I said, when we spoke about it originally, I thought this was a good place to let some
Yes.
of council hear the initial pieces of it
Yes.
and continue forward.
Because if I find out, if I'm paying through some system and I gotta pay $3.50 and I'm talking to my neighbor at the neighborhood barbecue and he saes, "Oh," he said, "You dummy, yeah, I set up a check and I don't have to pay a thing. I got 47 cents or whatever, 50 cents for an envelope or nothing if I just drop it in the body." I said, "Okay, well,
That's
so
all.
goodbye official payments or whatever they're using. I'll just write you a check."
Well, and what I'll do for the next meeting, I'll bring our stats from 2017 and to date. Stephanie tracks, how many people call in, how many phone calls we get, but then she breaks down all our monthly payments. Just so you can see that as a reference point, and I'll even say the amount of people that come in and pay with their check at the window. You know,
Right,
it-
yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I at least wanted to give it time so you guys can marinate on it a little bit, cause
And I'll
I'm,
be interested, I mean, obviously, there's another side to this, and I'll be interested to hear that side
Yes.
as well. I
Yes.
don't want to just listen to this and that.
I agree.
mean,
I'm
I
with
think
you
we're all
there.
of an open mind, we'll listen to, you know,
Yeah.
why is this the path that's being suggested, or what other options do we have?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
God did not give me such a large head to carry a narrow mind. I'm open for anything, if it makes sense. I'm a team player. I do a tremendous amount of teamwork, right? Isn't that how you do it? Oh, I'm just
Right,
kidding.
yes.
I'm just kidding. Keep it lively, folks, keep it lively. All right, well, thank you for that. If you have any questions, we'll continue to, next meeting, we're gonna have some folks here to have, probably dedicate that entire meeting to this discussion, if that's all right, just open dialogue. Okay? Well, last but not least, I gave you a copy of the SWIM spreadsheet, just kind of where we're at with, well, we're gonna start working on the budget, what, in June again, so.
Yeah, we'll start getting the CIP forms in June.
Yeah. So this is just to show you what I'm trying to work on my end to kind of keep track of what we have. So killing you by colors, but just quick overview. What's in yellow are initiatives and projects that are ongoing, part of 2018. Just to, kind of mark off the list a little bit. I failed to, on the back page, WTP well cleaning. I should have highlighted that because we're trying to do water plant one this year. I must have glossed over that one. Green, I got that dark green next to the water booster project. That started, that was that a 2015 initiative in anticipation of Fannin and Deagle?
Yes?
So that didn't happen the way we planned because we felt that that would be an overnight upgrade. Didn't happen. We are to a point to where we need to revisit that just from a standpoint, well, we have some growth in the area. We're working with future developments to kind of get some great loops in and out of some of these areas to help with efficiency, but I still think we're at the category to where, hey, while it's somewhat quiet, we're growing at a rate of 46 accounts a year over the past 5 years. So it's not like we're hitting that 100 all at once. We're at a good spot to where, hey, is now the time, do we get a bigger pump? What's the cost? How can we kind of upgrade that system to glean more towards the efficiency that we want instead of pumps running
18 to 22.
18 to 22 hours on a day? This weekend, people were out watering a lot. We had some high run times. To be expected. I mean, that thing was all built with the idea to send water to Beechwood, and we're giving it.
And only Beechwood.
And that's shit. So I now have the, and it's still carried over in our budget. It's still there. We've got that money. I'm gonna start, well, actually, is it this week, next week? We're gonna start meeting with some pump manufacturers or pump reps to look at our options. This is what we have now. What can we work with the curve and the head that we need to overcome? What's our options? So we're gonna start looking at that. Just so you know, since we're kinda in a spot to where it makes perfect sense, regardless of getting something like that. The rest of it is just for you to have and chew on as we start talking about budget. What you'll see, especially with the water side of things, my goal for 2019 is to go through and maybe color code some of the blue in a different color that I could use if we get an opportunity to have a developer do that in lieu of a capacity fee, if an option would present itself like we did with Creek Road this year. The sewer, we're gonna keep kind of pounding on the phosphorus upgrade project and eventually transition over into some of these mainline improvements in the future. Relining, we've got clay pipe that's been in the ground since 1967 in some areas that needs some attention, and that's what some of those are. So it's just to give you something, if you're bored or whatever, you've got a nice little list of the projected capital projects as they stand now. And I'll reference these as we start working through the budget. So I think that's it.
I would say,
Any
in,
questions?
well, in connection, I don't have a question on this
Yeah.
necessarily, because we've seen it, but kind of, another item on that June list is, since we're gonna possibly have the finance director here, could we possibly revisit the funds and the lines of where the funds are, so we can just make sure we keep our finger on the pulse of when the water CIP, the sewer CIP, the water fund, and the sewer fund, what are they looking like? What's the slope of those, you know, kind of things?
Yep.
So I'm gonna, I'd ask for that to be on that.
Yeah, that'd be great, because if we have Jamie here, we could do the first part talking about the invoice cloud stuff, and then they could depart, and then we could talk revenue projections and
Yeah.
things like that.
Mr.
I would
Page?
say the CIP and the, capital, but also the operating.
Oh, yeah,
User
yeah.
fees, so look at both of those, how they're going, because if you look at the lines, as we talk about for both of those funds, something we need to talk about.
Agreed. With that said, I don't know what council has, and I don't know if just you know upcoming, committees.
Are you looking for June?
I'm looking probably June 18th. Could we once again have another, utility committee meeting? I'll ask my fellow council people if they're free for that on that day.
There's no other meeting except for the council meeting on that night, so you guys have a,
So it's like a 6 o'clock, on the 18th. Would that, good for you as well, Mr. Barstow?
That's fine.
Let's set that as a tentative date, and then, Nathan, you and I and BJ can work on agenda items if we want, have other stuff we wanna add.
Roger that.
All right. Anything else from you?
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, that was it.
Mr. Barstow?
I have a question. I don't
Yes.
expect an answer this evening. It's a question. So there's a certain sheriff's deputy
Yeah.
that lives in Beechwood Trails.
Yeah.
And he knows where I live. And he likes to harass me about different things in a friendly way, but he wants to know why, since we live practically across the street from each other, why he pays more for water and sewer than I do since he lives out of town. At some point, I try to avoid him, but at some point, it's difficult. If I could just have that answer and just send me an email or something so I can show it to him.
Sure.
I invite him to come and ask, but he's shy, I guess.
I'd be
Thank
more
you.
than happy, I'll send you an email,
Very good, thanks.
and I'll tell you the history that I know. How
Oh,
about
that'll be
that?
fantastic.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Powell?
No.
Not appearing, I'll, accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Just, we have a vote.
Hicken,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Meeting is-